Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk about Gyre. She's a frame that I've played quite a bit. She's not my most played frame, but she is definitely up there. I find her supremely fun. I think she has one of the coolest dodge animations in the game. Not that that's relevant to gameplay, but it's really cool. Especially with 2 parkour velocity shards, you go really far. But anyways, yeah, I wanted to talk about Gyre, and I wanted to share a few builds. I think that I think you should give her a try. Most people know that she's good, but I don't think people really appreciate how good she is and how versatile she is. There are so many options for builds that you can use with her. But yeah, anyways, this is my main build. I do want to point out that for the sake of this part here, I will be taking off my companion just so that it doesn't mess anything up, but typically you would run a companion, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, this is my main build. As you can see at the top, this is my armor strip / main build. For this, I subsume Pillage over her 2. It is worth noting this was before they introduced the augment for her second ability. But that's fine because I don't really use that in this build anyways. It is also worth noting that I don't have it, but there is a new augment for her first ability, which you absolutely could put here instead of natural talent. I just don't have it right now, but I'll probably be picking it up and putting it in here. I believe it just essentially turns this into like sort of a pseudo vault shield where you throw it down, you shoot through it, everything does bonus electricity, which plays in perfectly with how Gyre works. I'll quickly talk about her abilities. Her passive ability is very simple. It just allows her abilities to crit, depending on how many electrical status effects are on that enemy. So this is, I think this is per enemy, so it depends on how many electrical procs the specific enemy has. So each enemy will take a different type of crit, depending on how many electricity procs they have. I don't think it's a flat boost, but I could be wrong. Let me know if I am. Arc Sphere is very simple as well. It just throws out a ball of electricity, I guess, that will shock enemies and sort of apply a small level of CC. You can put it in hallways and things like that, but it's not super useful for the sake of this build unless you run that new augment. Her second ability is Coil Horizon, but we'll talk more about that later. And then her last 2 abilities are Cathode Grace, which is basically a bonus to crit chance and energy regen. And her 4th ability here, ultimate quote unquote, is Rotoswell, which essentially makes all of your critical hits fall down in electrical discharge, essentially a lightning bolt of sorts, that will chain from enemy to enemy. This does have a cooldown that is not mentioned on the ability card, but it didn't used to, so you could essentially, every single crit would call down a lightning strike, including crits done by abilities. Now it has a micro cooldown between them. I don't know what it is. It might be like half a second or 0.1 seconds or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I'll put it on screen. But it does have a micro cooldown, but it is still extremely, extremely good, especially when paired with her passive and Cathode Grace with the Cathode Current Augment. This is kind of the primary thing the build revolves around. This essentially allows your 4th ability to share the cooldown bonus that Cathode Grace does. So the way Cathode Grace works is you pop it, every kill you get, you can see you gain some duration on kill. And Cathode Grace allows that to happen for Rotoswell, as well as giving you an additional discharge from using Rotoswell. So it just, with burn 200% damage. So it's just basically a direct buff. Pretty much every Gyre build will use this because it is just supremely useful, allowing you to never have to recast these 2 abilities as long as you keep getting kills, meaning all of your energy can be spent on Pillage or Arc Sphere. With that said, the build is pretty simple. It's Corrosive Projection and 269 Strength. You need to be at least, I believe it's 264, but that's a hard number to get to, in order to get Pillage to be 100% Armor Strip with Molt Augmented. So you need 264 Strength, Molt Augmented, and Corrosive Projection in order to get Pillage to Armor Strip in 1 cast. You don't have to Armor Strip in 1 cast, but I find it's very useful in higher level content. And you know, it's a nice quality of life thing, just to have a one tap Armor Strip. That also restores shields and dispels status effects, so if you get hit with a toxin proc, you can cast Pillage, boom, all of your statuses are gone, you're not going to get killed by the toxin procs, and you'll regain all your shields, which is our primary form of survivability. We're using Archon Stretch for some extra range and some energy regen. Primary direction and, like I said, pillage is our survivability. Adaptation is here just to make it so our shields don't get replenished too quickly. And obviously we have natural talent in place of the new augment, which I don't have. And we're running Arcane Avenger. This is a flexible slot. You can really put whatever the hell you want here. So is this. This is also a flexible spot. But everything else, I would say, especially the strength and stuff like that, I would say all of this is pretty required. You could drop primary direction for something else. I just like the comfort of having a massive shield pool. But this is also not 100% required. Next, we have a ranged focus build, which is very similar to this one. It just drops the armor strip in place of condemn because we're not reaching enough strength to warrant using pillage. You could replace this with a different type of armor strip, like a Famize or something like that, but for the sake of this, I just put on condemn so I can have some. I can still keep that shield regeneration aspect of pillage, but it allows me to run lower strength. We're also rocking pretty much the same survivability setup, using condemn instead of pillage to regen shields. Same Archon stretch, pretty much it's the exact same build. We're just using overextended and Archon stretch with cutting drift in order to get 250% range. This gives us a 25-meter discharge range on Rotoswell. So it's basically just the same build, but way more CC. So if you're wanting to control an area and you're not too worried about armor stripping because maybe the enemies aren't quite as high level, this is another very, very valid option. This is a very similar build. This just uses slightly more strength and replaces a 2 with Nourish. This is just if you want a much more stable energy economy, because Nourish multiplies the energy regen from Cathode Grace, so this is just another really good build. This also doesn't have any way to regen shields, so instead we use Aegis with Fast Deflection and Vigilante Vigor with adaptation to give us a pretty comfortable amount of survivability. But other than that, build's very similar. And then the coil build, this is completely different. This uses her augment for Coil Horizon, which is very, very strong. This is a very, very strong and very, very fun build. This uses kind of a mixture of strength, range, and duration in order to basically cast out Coil Horizon, maintain it up for about 30 seconds, 31 seconds you can see there, and you just knock it around with your melee weapon. You keep it moving constantly, and it kind of just kills everything. You're constantly red critting everything with your passive, allowing Coil Horizon to red crit. You're always going to have Rotoswell and Cathode Grace active, which is just giving you even more energy rate, crit chance, and more lightning strikes being called down, because this also does that. So you're getting lightning strikes being called from this, or discharge from this. You're getting more discharge from this. You're getting more discharge from this. And then we run a Famize over her 1 to give you around a 20%, or well, more ones and more augmented stacked up. It's about 25%, I want to say, which means you get a 4-second full armor strip. There's also a bit of bonus heat damage, but that's kind of whatever. This is just a great mobile armor strip. But yeah, this could be replaced with anything you really want. I just find Famize is a pretty solid choice here, especially because it lasts for quite a long time with 155 duration. But yeah, anyways, let's get into it. So I'm going to start with this build. For this, I am going to be using Torrid. It is also worth noting, I'm using 3 Tau Forged Violet shards to give bonus primary electricity damage. This is really, really, really good on Gyre, because obviously her passive scales with the amount of electrical status effects on an enemy, so being able to do that via a weapon is super, super useful. And with that, I'm using a Torrid build that I have specifically for Gyre. This is my Riven, though this can be switched out for pretty much anything else. This is just, I got lucky, I have a decent Riven for it, but it's not 100% required, as anybody that has used Torrid before knows, it is just that good of a weapon. I'm running Hammer Shot, Prime Firestorm, Galvanized Chamber, Malignant Force, Prime Carry Rounds, Vital Sense, Critical Delay, and I'm just running this here because there's not really anything else to put here, and I'm using Push on some of my other builds, but don't need it for this build because I'm not being invisible, and Primary Merciless. This is a pretty bog standard build. It's very similar to the normal Viral Heat build you would run. Obviously, I can't run the Viral Heat build because the innate, or the radiation from my shards will combine into radiation. Sorry, the electricity from my shards will combine into radiation, which we don't want. So this is basically a viral electricity build. And then I just have a Vasto Prime and a Ceramic Dagger here, just in case an Acolyte shows up, or rather, when an Acolyte shows up, I use this to just basically insta-kill an Acolyte. But you can run literally whatever you want. You will need a melee weapon of some kind. The faster a melee weapon attacks, which means basically the quicker you can do this, the better, because every time you throw the ball out with the last build, you need to hit it, or sorry, whenever you call it back, you need to hit it back away. with a melee weapon, and if it's a really slow swing melee weapon, it just kind of ruins the flow a little bit. And then companion-wise, I usually will run my Nautilus Prime build, this one here, which is just a priming setup. Very, very bog standard. I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but it's here if you want it. And then we also run a Tazakor with, once again, more electricity. This is a viral magnetic radiation electricity setup. This allows me to apply more electricity stacks to enemies, as well as priming them with viral, which is always super, super nice. But yeah, we'll take this off really quick just for now. And showing this first build, it's very, 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 very simple. I can basically go up to enemies, go into the Incarnate mode, and then you pop your 3 first, then your 4, armor strip the enemies, and that's it. That's the whole build. You're constantly sitting around 3,000 shields. It is extremely, extremely strong. And yeah, there's not really much else to show with that one. That is the build. It is super good. The range focus build is pretty much exactly the same, except you would cast Condemn in order to regen your shields, but other than that, it's exactly the same. The Nourish build, once again, exactly the same, except we're using Fast Deflection and Vigilante Vigor instead. Pardon me. But yeah, the Coil build will show. I just wanted to give those other builds as a bit of diversity in case you don't have Pillage and can't invest as much strength. But this build is by far the most different, so we'll show this. If you're wondering why I'm doing that, it's just to get the bonus 40% ability strength. Sometimes I do it in like out of habit because I'm so used to doing it. Yeah, this build's pretty simple. You basically would cast your Aphanimise in order to armor strip the enemies. You cast your 3, you cast your 4, and then you throw the ball out and you hold cast to bring it back. And you just keep doing this basically. Now it might not look that impressive at first, but eventually it does stack up. It's pretty solid. You can see it kills those enemies relatively easily. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to leave this here a second. You can see my time is on 9 seconds. I'm going to spawn these enemies in, and then I'm going to tap cast the ability, which will pull all of the enemies in to the center of the ball and just obliterate them. It is literally just a blender. It is so, so strong. And it is extremely, extremely fun to use. You're just constantly throwing out this ball, bringing it back in. Throwing out the ball, bringing it back in. Recast my armor strip, knock it back towards them, bring it back in. And then whenever you feel like it, you can recast the ability to suck all the enemies in and destroy them. Or you can let it do it naturally, so you'll see... Oops, I missed. This is why I was saying you want a good, relatively fast-swinging melee weapon. So you can, you know, do this. And you'll see top right, as it's moving, it's gaining... let me see if I can do this here. Yeah, it's gaining coil recharge, distance traveled, effects discharge frequency, and final detonation damage. So you want to keep it moving as much as possible. You see after the time is up, it automatically detonates. But that's the main goal, is just keep it moving as much as possible. You always want to be throwing this out as far as you can, bringing it back, hitting it, bringing it back, hitting it. Like, the more you make it move, the more damage it does during that final detonation. So it's very, very strong. But yeah, let's do some gameplay now, I suppose. Let's quickly go back to the ship. I'll start off with this first build. I'm not going to show the the range build or the nourish build. I will just, you can just pause the video and take these if you want them. They're both still really, really good, though I do genuinely believe that this is the strongest build for Gyre overall. The coil build is really, really fun, but I do not think it comes even close to this build. And these two are more just different builds, I guess. More variation in case you don't want to run an armor strip, or maybe you don't have it unlocked. I know Hilgen's not the easiest for him to farm, so yeah, these two are here if you want them. Alright. Let's see, where do we want to go? Let's go to... well, let's go to Circulus. It's right here, so we might as well take advantage of it. Whee!
The art of combat must be
Oh, I didn't put my companion on. You know what? We'll do no companion.
the canvas of war.
I cannot be bothered going back to orbit. Alright, I'm gonna put down an energy pad to begin with, just to give me a little bit of starting energy so I can cast my third ability. Gotta wait for the enemies to spawn anyways. Alright, enemies are in. We're gonna cast our 3, we're gonna cast our 4, and then we're gonna start killing everything. You see, all enemies pillage isn't line of sight checked, so it will go through walls. So you can basically just run around every now and again. You just cast... Oh, is this the circular room? Yeah, this is the room we want. And yeah, you don't have to use Torrid. I do think it is one of the stronger weapons on her. Mainly because you don't need to be as precise with it, because if you aim even near enemies, because of Prime Firestorm, you can see that it still hits them. Also, you can see the parkour shards giving me very, very fast movement. That is super, super helpful. I can also throw down some of these arc spheres. I'll just put one here, and one here. You'll see that even the arc spheres are more than capable of getting kills. Mainly because of the bonus crit chance they gain from enemies being electrocuted. You'll also see, if you look bottom right, my abilities are never running out, basically. Even with low efficiency. Because of how easy it is to get kills, it's basically just a massacre. Your only real weakness is toxin damage. And obviously if you run out of energy and you can't cast Pillage to regain your shields, then you're kind of cooked. But if you do get hit by a toxin proc, just cast Pillage. I'll see if I can find like a Arson Eximus, someone to light me on fire to demonstrate that, even though it's not, you know, the same, but it's still a status effect. Well, usually I'm hounded by Arson Eximuses, and now that I want one, there are just none. Hey, you guys Arson Eximuses? No. We'll put some more of these down. Maybe there are Arson Eximuses here, and I'm just not seeing them because they're too busy being dead. That is always a possibility. Yeah, you can clearly see that this has no issues. And you can take this, I've taken this into ETA, EDA, with absolutely no problem. Obviously, if you try to take this to level cap, the survivability is still there, because Pillage is just basically a get out of jail free card. However, the energy drain will be much higher, because you'll be having to cast it way more frequently. Because the enemies will be doing so much damage that they will basically start, like, one-tapping your shields. But it's really no different than other shield gate frames. It's just a little more energy intensive, so you may have to drop one of the arcanes and run energize, like drop more efficiency and run energize. You don't technically need the extra duration, I just run it for a bit of extra comfort. Yeah, I don't think there's really much to say about it. It is just a very, very, very solid build. She's an excellent weapons platform that can also deal significant damage with her abilities. And there's really not much, she's not really got that many weaknesses. Oh, who stole my weapon? Who did it? Oh, perfect timing on the Acolyte spawning in, so we'll get a bit of a charge on this, switch this to Incarnate mode. Got my Torrid. You'll see this guy spawn in, and oh, I'm not in Incarnate. Oh, I'm in wrong Incarnate. No! I was in the wrong Incarnate mode. I didn't have my other weapon out. That was my bad, I fumbled. Hey, we all make mistakes. But yeah, we haven't got much time left on this mission. Or at least before we can extract. Yeah, that was definitely not a case of the build doing anything wrong. That was simply me doing something wrong. I was too busy, I forgot when you pick up your weapon off the ground, it switches you, like, you back to the weapon that you picked up off the ground. You can see there, though, I did have, what is that, the guy gone? I did have some slash status effects then. And they got dissipated when I used pillage. I was getting my 4 turn back on. And then, yeah, let's make our way towards extraction. And then we'll do another 5 minutes with the opposite build, the other build. So it's the only one that differs in, like, gameplay versus this one. Yeah, other than that one, fumble there, pretty well. No problem hitting 100 kpm, and the enemy spawns felt a little low on that mission for some reason. You can easily reach 200 kpm, so 1,000 kills in 5 minutes if you have a good tile set. Alright, now let's switch to the other build, and we'll also put back on our companion, because I forgot. So this is the coil build. Let's put our Nautilus on. Let's make sure we're on build B. Let's get straight back in here. So it is worth noting, this build is a little bit easier to maintain because you're not having to juggle like an armor strip or anything like that.
Their rage is vehement, their focus impressive. Give them all warriors death.
Sometimes the ball can get stuck like this, in which case you're kind of just cooked. You'll have to just tap cast it to break it. But we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to give ourselves a bit of starting energy. The main thing first is getting your 3 active. If you get your 3 active, that gives you all the energy upkeep you pretty much need. And then you can see we start regaining energy pretty substantially. We'll just get a few kills. There we go. And then, yeah, we pop our 4, pop our 1. Oh, and I don't have enough energy to cast. There we go. Coil Horizon. And then, boom, throw it out. Hold caster, call it back. Keep it moving forward. Call it back, push it forward. And rinse, repeat. You can see that it has no issue killing enemies. You can just knock it into a group. And because my companion is grouping things, that makes it really, really efficient at just constantly grouping enemies together and killing them. I wish we had that tree area again. That's almost like perfect for this. But, you know, you can kind of see I can just keep going around here in circles. It did detonate then. Unfortunately, you just couldn't see it. You can also just walk and, like, drag it. That's also another valid way of doing it, though you kind of have to walk looking backwards so you can make sure it doesn't get, like, sniped on anything. You can see if I knock it, like, in here. Oh, well, these guys kind of came to me. It is also worth saying it doesn't matter what melee you use, like, you don't need to mod the melee at all. None of that really matters. Oh, I need to recast our Fainting Eyes. Yeah, you can see this is purely ability damage. Like, I'm not using my weapons at all. And we're already on 308 kills. So in some instances, this can outperform the other build. So my shields did get broken there. By a Blitz Eximus, I believe. So we do have to be sort of careful. We're perfectly fine when Aegis procs. You can see it did detonate there. It sucked all the enemies in. You also want to avoid the urge to, like, you know, come to an intersection like this and just leave it and let the enemies walk into it, because it does not gain any bonus damage from that. You have to keep it moving in order to gain the bonus damage. You see, it just pulls the enemies in, all red crits. And it is an extremely, extremely effective build. Considering you don't need any, like, good weapon to make this work. I'm not quite sure how well it does against Acolytes. Typically, I will have my Vasto charged up. If I can even get any headshots before they just die. There we go. So I'll have that charged up and ready to go. I'm just making sure it's on the right. I know how to get to it. I guess this is as good a spot as any to sit. You can kind of see you can just keep pushing it forward, pulling it back. My companion is constantly grouping enemies up. You guys coming from over there. Just throw it through the doorway. Recast our armor strip. Get it back through the doorway this way. It can be a little finicky to like kind of get it to obey. That's the only downside I would say to this build specifically. Is sometimes, like for example, if you leave it on the other side of a door and then that door closes, obviously, well, an enemy opened the door then, but I don't believe it can open doors on its own. You can see here, like it kind of can get a little bit stuck. Let's try and get it in a good position to suck. There we go. You can see it like it will just decimate anything that happens to be within the area of its suck. I've said suck a lot this video. Hopefully YouTube doesn't catch on. I'm sorry, YouTube. I also want to thank everybody for all the support on the recent videos. I know this is like late into the video, so I don't know how many people are still stuck around or are still around watching at this point. If you are, comment like, I don't know, comment beefsteak down in the description. That way it'll confuse everybody that hasn't made it this far. You can see I'm not even using my armor strip like as much as I could. Okay, Acolyte spawn again. We'll switch to my Vasto Incarnate. We'll find him, and he's dead. If you guys want to build on the Vasto, let me know. I know people have talked about it already, but it is my go-to Acolyte killing weapon. Oh, you can see we're already 5 minutes in as well. We'll quickly armor strip these guys, blow this ball up. That'll kill literally everything near it, and then we will get out of here. So that was 5 minutes, and we're on 688 kills, which again, in a slightly better tile set, like the tree one, anywhere more open, basically, so you can group the enemies more efficiently, it would be a lot better. But it is a very, very good build. Gyre is just really, really good in general. There we go, and that was it. Very, very solid build. Pretty much all ability kills, bar a couple at the beginning to get a bit of energy. And, yeah, it is super, super fun. Super, super strong. Very versatile, so there's a lot of different variety in the way you can build her. Depending on whether you want to be more ability focused, whether you want to be more energy independent, whether you want to be more ranged focused, so this is very good at just CCing like really large groups of enemies, or whether you want to be just a walking armor stripping lightning goddess, then yeah, there's pretty much options for everybody. Yeah, that is the build. Let me know if you guys want a build on the Vasto. In fact, you know what? Here you go. This is the Vasto I was using. If you're interested, it just uses this evolution, Death Trap, yeah, Death Trap trigger, and Commodore's Fortune, oops, in combination with secondary outburst with my ceramic dagger build that allows me to build up to 12x combo pretty comfortably, and keep it there. And you just basically build up the Incarnate charge on your Vasto, maybe get a couple of kills to stack up diffusion and shot, and then you just basically, this is my ribbon by the way, and then you just wait for the Acolyte to spawn in, you switch to your Vasto and just unload a burst of the Incarnate on them, and it will pretty much kill anything in one burst. It is super, super strong. But yeah, anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like, and if you have any comments or thoughts, please let me know down in the comment section below. And if you've got any suggestions for any other Warframes you'd like to see builds on, any weapons you'd like to see builds on, do let me know. And yeah, that's it. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you guys in the next video.